1.
Oh,
We're
he
live.
sleeper made me live. He didn't give me any countdown. Hello and welcome back to Mans with Opinions, the best place to get mildly informed opinions in all this week's tech news. This is version 2.6, and today we'll be covering some stuff. I don't have the topic list open. We're going to be talking about AI copyrights, Neuralink, because they're in the news real
My mic
bad.
stopped working. Sorry. Hi, guys.
Oh, that's why
I
you
was
didn't give me a heads
I was
up.
giving you a countdown, and then this man accuses me of not giving him a countdown. I was about to cry and break down on screen.
I was like, oh, I guess we're live. But anyways, we're also going to be talking about EV adoption and Intel's pay-as-you-go CPUs. So it's going to be a stacked show. We've got a lot to cover because we missed last week, and we're not missing a beat. So here we are.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
Mac,
I'm doing swell.
how are you doing, Mac? You want to give us a little update?
Oh, some life updates. I would love to. Missed the podcast, of course. I always love spending my Wednesday nights here. And I didn't fill anything in on my notes section. Wonderful. But I do.
You're gonna have to improvise.
I do
your
have
life.
a life though. Monday went ice fishing for the first time in a long time. Went up to my parents' place.
Can you explain why you're catching ice?
No, so I fishing on the ice.
I see.
And I got a walleye, which is good. It was like 2-pounder, perhaps this big. I ate it. It was 10 out of 10. Good. I haven't caught one of those before.
So why didn't you pay
it's
for
like-
it in Canadian dollars? Why was it in pounds? Why would you pay for it in pounds?
Oh god.
Why did I pay for it in pounds?
Yeah.
You know,
Funny guy.
with the really terrible jokes you tell, you'd think you were a father or something. Like those, they're all dad jokes.
No.
No,
they're
he's
not.
just average Irish.
Hi, I'm just trying to be a comedian.
But yeah, I've been applying to jobs, kind of on that grind. I've my first job interview of this semester coming up in a couple days, so super excited about that.
Poggers.
Hell yeah.
Thanks. So yeah, super excited about that. And then reading week, trying to use this like the rest of this time to kind of position myself. So
Ooh.
I get work done, like I get ahead on some classes, so I can kind of spread my work out a little bit more.
Thanks
And
for the sub, Matt, by the way. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
And that's about it for me. What about you, Nasher?
So, it's reading week. I've been playing video games. That's been pretty fun. I don't get much of a chance to play video games without having stress, so it's kind of fun. I also got an interview tomorrow, which I'm very stressed about. It's a Shopify interview, so that's kind of yikes. Ooh,
Spicy?
I'm really excited. It's the first time I've ever been like excited for an interview. So, also.
Wow. Don't let your former employers hear that. Jeez.
Oh my god.
Hey guy, the last 2 interviews I did, I woke up like 20 minutes before them, and just kind of, yeah, that's about it. Anyway, so played pool the other day. It was pretty fun. Got some sushi with the boys. I've actually had a lot of sushi recently, and I have like strangely, I've had like, a huge craving for sushi recently. So that's been pretty fun. Otherwise, yeah. What about you, Nathan?
Oh my god. I have been grinding so hard. Okay, so first off, I finally, like the whole family has finally tested negative for COVID. We are making our way to the clear.
Poggers.
But at the moment, like my dad and I are still like, you can hear the coughing through the walls. Like all the other symptoms are gone, right? Except for being a little bit tired, but that might just be because I'm doing too many things. But yeah, the cough is sticking around, but that's like normal for me, right? Every previous winter, I get sick in like January, and then all the symptoms are gone after a week and a half or so, the usual, and then the cough persists until spring, just mildly. I'm on the bus and I'm just,
Oh yeah.
But since this is COVID, it's like it sounds like my lungs are trying to escape my body. So, anyways, that happened.
How do you know what that sounds like?
I'm estimating. I'm giving it my best guess.
So you haven't had any experience with like lungs leaving bodies, have you?
Not personally.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Just making sure. Just clarifying.
I've played a lot of Yeah, I've played a lot of really gory video games, so there's some of that content there. But hey,
He's into astral projection and crystals and stuff. He can visualize it.
yeah, just. But other than that, I gave a presentation for like my tech comms class, and I've been working on my lit review for that same class, and it was nice.
review.
Yeah, man.
What's lit review?
We're reviewing all things lit.
Lit.
Just looking over all of the literature for a research space before you start doing research in it, so that you know what's been done and where research should be done. So that's why this is here. If for those of you listening on the podcast later, I've got sticky notes all over my wall because I don't have a whiteboard, and that's how I brainstorm. So it's been fun. Yeah,
That's great.
that's been my life.
Huh. Well, pretty interesting.
Busy's better than not busy. You know the old saying.
They're like $20 on Amazon, right? Like a whiteboard, a little small handheld whiteboard.
I think I need space when I think. So like I don't even like I was taking notes on my tablet for a while, and I just switched back to paper. I still like it for if I'm going to in-person classes because I only have to carry one thing. It's good for class notes. But when I'm brainstorming, I want to like put an idea down on one page and have that there, and then put an idea down on another page and have that there, and then I can step back and see all of the different things at once and how they connect to one another and what I like. And that's why the wall is a thing, because I just have all of these different ideas and I move them around and connect them that way.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, because I totally get it. Like the screen size is so limiting. You can just have like 10 pieces of paper out on your desk if you want. Like there's nothing stopping you.
Yeah. It's just it's just so much more effective for visualizing ideas. So yeah.
So,
All right.
you guys want to get into the first topic?
I think it's
I
time.
would love to get into the first topic, Nosher.
So, everybody loves copyright, copyright.
Yeah.
Everyone loves it, okay? If there's no copyright, we wouldn't be alive right now. Everyone the society would be in chaos, right?
Society would crumble.
Governments would be in dysfunction, okay? So, recently, not recently. This is a addition to something that happened 3 years ago. Recently, there was a ruling passed by the Copyright Review Board of the United States Copyright Office, I guess, that basically said that stuff made by an AI can't be copyrighted. So they gave an example of a regular piece of artwork and like a really cool image that was made by an AI by a guy who was like, hey, my AI made this thing, it should be copyright material because it's creative and cool. And
Well, that's actually gorgeous though.
right, that looks cool.
It is really nice.
I'll pop it
Can you
on.
put that up on stream?
Let me quickly try.
Is it? Well, I don't think it's copyright.
So here
Yeah, that's
or else
right.
we would not be here.
So here's the image for everybody looking on stream. It looks pretty sick. I don't think I could make that, so that's already a big achievement right there. But basically, yeah, the copyright office said that, hey, anything made by an AI.
See it on stream.
You don't see it on stream?
No.
But
Weird.
is it delayed? Because
Do you, Nathan?
No, I don't see it on stream either.
Oh yeah. No, I
Okay,
just,
we'll just drop the link.
yeah, that's weird.
it's pretty sick.
But yeah, that was basically, yeah. And the argument is talking about how I don't think a human could make that, or like I don't. It's something creative. And what do you guys think? Should it be copyright? Should it not be copyright? Is it different because it's a piece of machinery that made it, or does it not matter?
I think it totally matters. Like, if you use an AI that somebody else coded, and you use a data set that somebody else somebody else collected, and you make something with that, like just putting those two together, you absolutely do not deserve to copyright.
Okay.
Like, because none of that is yours. But if you create an AI, or you use a pre-existing AI and bring like a novel data set to it, I think that constitutes something that can be copyrighted.
Okay, I mean that's interesting, and I get where you're coming from, but there is there's a real problem, especially in like copyrighted software, where there's a how do you draw the threshold for adequately different that you now own it. So one of the things that would be really easy to do is, let's say I'm dealing with a neural network. You could easily just you could like tweak one layer of that neural network. And when we're talking about convolutional neural networks, deep neural networks, these things are there could be 100 layers to this thing, and each one of them could have a bunch of nodes. And if you tweak one thing, it's like, is that now a new architecture that you own? Or and so does that give you rights? Does that give you the right to copyright the work produced by that? Because if so, you could easily skirt around this. Well, maybe not easily. You still have to understand the code of a neural network. But
Yeah.
you could skirt around that problem with some ease. So
My argument kind of.
I think. Yeah. No. Go ahead.
I feel like it's kind of like. I feel like it's creativity, you know, like AI basically is essentially, to dumb it down about something I'm not qualified to talk about. It takes a bunch of data.
That's what we're here for.
Mixes it around, finds something cool, and spits it out, right? Like, you know, it takes a bunch of input in, finds patterns, puts those together, whatever things they look like, whatever patterns it thinks look cool together, sticks them together, throws them out. That's kind of what we do too. Like, you know, when you're making a piece of artwork, you're kind of referencing things you've experienced before and seen before and dreamt about. I don't think it's any different from that. I feel like it's the exact same thing. So
Okay. So I think the two of us, Mac and I, made the assumption that a human would own this. Are you saying that the AI should own this? The AI should have the copyright?
I guess
That makes zero sense for the copyright, because then nobody can use it.
That's true. How does that I mean, like, I get the idea. You're saying like, okay, this was created by something else that did the thinking, right? In air
thinking,
quotes,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that thing that did the thinking, the AI, should be the thing that owns it and has the right to do the copyrights, right? Or to the I don't know what the phrasing on that is. So I mean, I would agree, just like from a really abstract philosophical standpoint, just saying like the thing that did the thinking should have the ownership of the
I think
thing.
the thing that owned the thing that did the thinking has ownership. For now.
Thing, yeah. So the person. Okay, my problem is just like Joe Blow should not be able to just like use an AI without understanding any of it and spit out like random stuff without doing any work at all. You know, like there's just nothing. There's no like skill. There's no novelty there. I don't know. Something seems
The work
wrong
is
about
the
that. Like,
computation power that he still has to like delegate to the. Let's say he runs the AI on his computer or like something like that.
Yeah.
Or a cloud service. You know, you still like. It's still kind of like you're still putting in the work. It's just not physical work now. It's just computation work that you still like had to queue up. You know, kind of. I don't know how to. I'm trying to like, draw a parallel between like NFTs and this right now. And I'm trying.
Dude,
I have
this
a
was
thought in my
we
head.
finally had an episode without NFTs, and you're trying to bring them in.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Because it's like. It feels like the same argument similar to like ownership of NFTs, where they're sure there's the dumb whatever, the dumb uses of artwork, blah blah blah, but the ownership's still there in my mind, right? Same thing here.
Well,
what skill are you putting in? Like minting, essentially, you could mint like a white 1x1 pixel, right? And that's still minting an NFT. I feel like it's kind of similar to that. I don't know.
I think a more a closer analogy here is software as a service that you continue to sell as a service, because it generates you create a thing, and then it generates something. And in software as a service, you would assume that it generates some amount of productivity somehow, right? And what you're selling to people is the productivity that your software generates, and that's the service that you're selling. But you only have to do that once. You create the thing once, and then it continues to create value without your input anymore.
yeah.
And you can sell that. Now, if you create a thing and you put that input once, right? You develop the AI and the data set, then it continues to produce value in the form of artwork at this point.
Sure.
And so in the same way that you have ownership over software that you treat as a service, you should have ownership over software that creates value through art, right? The art, you could even call the generation of artwork the
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it comes back to that. Whoever wrote the thing should have ownership,
Yeah.
and not the person who's just implementing it or
Yeah.
or using the tool.
I think that's
Because
not.
if you use an open source AI or something that everybody has access to, and a data set that multiple people have access to, you can't really copyright it, right? Because then anybody can just completely replicate what you've made, technically. Like with a similar program and data set, like in theory, you can just replicate it without owning it at all and just generate that image yourself. Like in terms of the artwork, maybe like if you knew what this guy, I don't know how the guy did it. Um,
But the guy who
so
made
there's
it
definitely
gets
kind of a fine
implicit
line.
copyright laws to it, in Canada at least.
The guy who
So-
made the image.
The initial one, yeah. We have in Canada, you have implicit copyright laws. If you make something, you implicitly get copyright laws to it in Canada.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah, I talked about this in another class this week, actually, funny enough, or last week.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
In the U.S., it's explicit. If you make something and you don't put copyright on it, it's free domain. Anyone can copy it and put copyright on it. But in Canada, once you make something, it's automatically implicit. And if someone else makes the same thing and then says, "Hey, I made this first," like they go to the copyright office and make it. Whoever made the thing first gets the implicit copyright, and then it becomes explicit copyright after that if it goes to court. But yeah.
I
That's
see.
really interesting.
I didn't
What
know
if-
that.
What if the person doesn't like do anything? Like, does the person who has that initial copyright, if they don't do anything with it, do they still have the copyright? Like, if they're not trying to sell it, if they're not trying to like share it with people, and somebody else, even if that other person doesn't know that they made that thing,
Well, it's like
how does that work?
the art. So like, if it's, let's say if someone makes something, right, and then you come up with that same thing, like come up with the exact same thing in different bubbles, right, and you start selling it, whatever. That's fine because like no one's going to court against each other. But if that second
Right.
person, the new person, made it, and with the intention of like going to court against the initial person, being like, "Hey, I actually made this," even though they didn't, then it would like be enforced and stuff. But if it's two different bubbles of people, then it doesn't matter. Until it goes to court. So, yeah.
So, U.S. officials have said you can't copyright AI created art at all.
I think
That's what's passed. So I mean, we're all sort of on the side of whoever wrote the AI, or at least you like. I think there's varying degrees here. Like if they use a UI with an AI with a novel data set in a way somebody else hasn't combined, maybe that's valid. But there is some notion here that we think you should be able to copyright AI. What do we know? What grounds they've set for this? Like why they don't believe that this?
They did actually.
Yeah?
Because if I can find the exact, I want to quote it. I do remember reading it. It came down to the fact that there was no human involved. So the copyright works must be created by a human being is like the definition of copyright technically in U.S. law, and there's no creation by a human, I guess. I'm just reading through this real quick to find a copyrighted work must be created by a human being, and the office says it won't register works produced by a machine or a mere mechanical process that lack intervention or creative input from a human author. Which I feel like is wrong, because the creative input from the human, it would be the parameters set to the AI, right? Like all the different like all the values and the data set is the input provided by the human.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I feel like it's a really slippery slope if you can just have like music labels and stuff just cranking out copyright music, because then it's almost like a machine, you know, like a factory that can produce way more copyrighted content than human beings could ever produce. You know what I'm saying?
But why is that like wrong? I see it's like dystopian, and I wouldn't
it's
like
wrong
it.
because it's wrong because like if you have painters who are like, let's say, hand painting something, you know, they're putting blood, sweat, and tears, it's almost like anti-competitive in other industries. The AI just is going to do a better job 90%. Like man versus machine always wins. Like that's just the way it works.
That kind of just seems like a horse versus cars thing to me.
Well, I mean, okay, but some might argue that art is one of the things that makes us human, that separates us from other species.
get
I
there.
like not to get super philosophical here, but I feel like you can go so deep. Because some people say that like human creativity is one of the things that does set us apart from other animals, other species in the world.
I think that's
Um,
just we've been saying that just because we don't know enough yet. We think that that's like the limit, but I don't think it's true.
Huh.
Like
Yeah.
it's like once we discover it, we'll be like, oh yeah, anyone can be creative. Like back 500 years ago, people were like, computers can't do math. That's crazy. Like no mechanical thing can do math. Like 1,000 years ago, but now they can. Now it's like, oh okay, that's obvious. A computer obviously could. I think creativity is similar. Where like right now we're like, yeah, obviously it's so complex. But like 100, 200, 300 years down the road, we'll be like, oh yeah, sure, anyone can do creativity. That's easy.
Yeah. Hey, Krusty. Yeah, I mean,
Maybe.
that's exactly the argument that we were laying out. Like, if you make something that makes something, you should own the things that it makes.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if the guy made an AI website, right? Let's say this guy made a website where you could make your account and then you could click on the generate button, set some parameters that are like predefined by the guy, and then it spit out an image. Would you own it, or would the guy who owns the website own it?
I think that would come down to. I think that would change depending on what. Like, there would be. What is it?
be like an end user license agreement on the website.
That's the one. I was
Yeah.
gonna. It's a EULA,
Yeah,
but what does
EULA.
that
Yes.
stand for? Right. So it depends on the software and how they write their laws around or their rules around that. And then so you can have like open source ones where you own it. You can have super open source ones where it's open domain or free domain, whatever it's called. And I think that would be really interesting. But yeah, I would agree that there is a certain amount of creative input, or at least intellectual input,
Yeah.
that goes into setting the parameters. Because, I mean, when you're talking about neural networks,
There's trillions
There's
of
a-
parameters.
there's tons, and there's an art to it. Like I was talking to our neural networks professor, and he was saying is like, yeah, it's a science, but you get good at the art part of it, where it's like, well,
Yeah.
here's a problem over here, and here's a series of possible solutions to problems that look like that for how I can tweak my neural network. But because of my years of experience, I know that this one's probably the best solution to that problem.
Yeah.
Right? So there is a creative input to this. So I think saying that that it's a mere mechanical process
Is wrong.
is removing things, right? It's so
It's simplifying the process of AI in general. For
Yeah.
different people who don't know how it works, because like even
Yeah.
being able to like use like having years of experience with AI, you'll start to imagine like, oh, if I change this parameter, this is roughly what might happen, right, out of the trillions of parameters. And you'll start to develop that thing, and I feel like that's a pretty creative skill to have, being able to like imagine what happens to the inputs and all that stuff.
yeah.
The same way you'd be able to imagine if I make these strokes without even doing it, it might look like that kind of is the equivalent.
Yeah. You just have a different tool now, right?
exactly.
The input process is different. Granted, it does a lot of a lot less input for a lot more output is what's happening here. So I think like Mac's point about just the non-competitiveness of it is interesting, because you could just
You
go
could
buck wild.
randomize inputs. You could generate 50 pieces of artwork. You could be like, I like this one, copyright. Whereas a painter might have put in blood, sweat, and tears. That's what I'm saying. It's just like unfair to
Thanks for
people
the
who
sub,
are
Megavolt 3.
legitimately creative, I believe.
Appreciate the sub. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Megavolt.
Yeah.
Let's
No,
go.
I think that's a really interesting discussion, because I think that's where it falls apart.
Get
Because
the AI to make easy NFTs.
they already did. Isn't that how most of them are generated?
Yeah.
They're like basically here's a series of hats and shirts and stuff.
And then just stick them together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. Really, is we're worried about. What if they generate so much copyrighted music that that a human can't generate music that isn't copyrighted anymore?
Yeah.
You've just covered the field.
Yeah, exactly.
okay.
And then
Which-
what's gonna happen is like that's a massive industry, music, and it's gonna completely fall apart, right? And that's not good for anybody. When you talk about it in an economic standpoint.
Bored apes are just.
And Another thing, I feel like art is very indicative of culture as well. And I think there's a very strong tie between those two things.
Mm.
And I don't really believe that it's possible for an AI to possess that, like, sort of cultural, like, to really have culture, you know? So I feel like if AI sort of dominated the art space, you get, like, cultural influence would be dead and gone. Like, it would be a thing of the past in artwork, which I think would be is another interesting thing to consider.
Yeah.
Because how isn't like you have every human being has a unique set of experiences, and you can
Sure.
view that as like inputs in an AI, like realistically. But I don't know. There's different people in different parts of the world have unique ways of doing things, and I think AI is not gonna. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a different influence. You're sort of I mean, you're getting something that isn't human anymore.
Yeah.
Right? You're getting input. I mean, if you look at that artwork, I'll redrop the link. But if you look at it, it is clearly not human.
No, yeah.
Right? It's also clearly, you can see what's going on, right? There's train tracks, but the things that are happening there are just non-human outputs. And it's really interestingly abstract.
It looks like an acid trip. Like,
Yeah.
It does.
a lot of people compare like deep mind photography to just acid trips. So,
Yeah.
which I think is
it's-
kind of cool. That kind of I think that makes it human. Because
Well-
these things that people have been seeing when they're high for thousands of years are the things that get spit out by AI. It's kind of an interesting thought.
Oh,
That
that's
might-
like deep.
I think that's
That's
a bit of
so
a leap,
deep.
though.
Is it?
Right? I think that's a bit of like, it's kind of when you're in a state like that where your mind state is that altered. I feel like once you leave that state, and I haven't been that kind of high before, like I haven't really experienced that, but the way you interpret that is probably going to be really, really different after you're sober, and it might be really easy to apply and mold those experiences and memories of those experiences to fit things that you see in your life. Kind of like when, memories, the way that people can adjust memories
Yeah.
by
the more you think
through
about
conversation.
a memory, even the more you think about it, yeah.
Yeah, and there's been studies where you can just plant whole things that didn't exist in somebody's memory through conversation.
Yeah.
So I think this might be one of those situations where they're like, that's trippy, therefore I saw it in my trip. It's like, ah.
Maybe.
But yeah, I think, yeah, striking that balance between, yeah, if you create a thing that creates things, you should own the things that the thing creates, And what if we make it so that the space is no longer competitive for humans? I guess that comes down to automation as a whole, right?
Well, I feel
We've
like
made
we'll
a lot
just, we'll just find a new way to make music more creative later down the road. I don't know, like, could people 50 years ago have imagined that, or 100 years ago imagined that we could use electricity to make music? Probably not. They're like,
Yeah.
and now we
That's
do
true.
it, and now no one uses it. Most people don't use instruments to make music, so,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I guess-
we're just not thinking like people back then couldn't have thought of the music that we could have produced now. Like they just wouldn't be able to think of it, and we can't think about what will happen later. I think like there's probably going to be cool music later on. We just can't even imagine it.
Yeah, I mean, my great grandmother probably never would have imagined dubstep. So.
Right? Yeah, like not even ever thought of it in a dream. Like it's just too
Yeah.
weird.
So, you guys remember What Does the Fox Say?
Oh yeah.
You
But
brought
yeah,
that
I
back?
think,
Ew.
yeah, I think there is some positive space here where AI generated artwork of various forms could create really interesting influences, right? Somebody's gonna look at this artwork and think that's beautiful, right? Maybe you think it's ugly. Doesn't matter. Somebody's gonna look at that and go, I wonder if I could do something like that. And
Yeah.
so we've created an interesting new input, which is cool. And from like a further abstract point of view, it's cool that something we created is creating stuff that is now giving us input, right? That's kind of cool. So
Yeah, that is cool.
Also, I'll give some closing remarks. Is that the U.S. Patent Office rejected this. The UK Intellectual Property Office also said that you have to be human. So did the European Patent Office, but the Australian trademark office said that an AI created invention can qualify for patent protection, and South Africa granted the guy, like this guy who made this artwork, a patent for one of the products last year that he made. So
Interesting.
yeah.
This is gonna be a really interesting debate for the next 20 years. I think.
Yeah.
And it's gonna get spicier and spicier as the artwork, especially I think music in particular, because I think we've gotten pretty good at visuals, but music generation hasn't created a lot of, at least from what I've seen, hasn't created a lot of enjoyable, like mainstream enjoyable music yet.
Oh yeah, mainstream. Yeah, there's a lot of game music now that's AI generated that you probably listen to and you didn't even know.
Oh,
Yeah.
Really?
Okay.
Yeah, AI generated
All right.
music is really good. The only issue is it's like it uses very repetitive past. Like it can't make a new #1 chart single yet. But
yeah,
it can
because
make,
that's not repetitive.
but it can make a well, you know what I mean. Well, it can 100% make a piece of music and you have no clue that it's AI generated at all, unless
I guess-
you're like toned to like music production over the last 100 years or something. So.
I guess I can't be surprised that like old school Nintendo style music is easy to replicate. I bet now that you mention it, I bet it's not hard for neural nets to produce that sort of, especially chiptune type music.
But even like
and
whole
then
orchestra
later on.
pieces, like AIs can generate.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
No, there's a
I'm
website
putting
for
that
it.
on my reading list. I am exploring that field because that sounds fascinating.
Yeah,
That's
there's
really
also
cool.
Jukebox, which is an open AI project. It's a neural net that generates music. Also generates rudimentary singing as well, and different genres and stuff. It can do
Wow.
country. Yeah, so actually, you know what? I'm gonna play this. It's not copyrighted, so you're good. These are some songs in styles of different artists that from. This is a country.
I think I've like heard the country one. It's kind of funny.
This is rock. And then there's pop too.
Oh, it's like old rock.
And then there's classic pop.
Nice.
And these are all AI generated.
Wow. Okay.
That's crazy.
I clearly had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Mildly informed opinions.
I just think it's so cool. Like obviously you can hear like some of those. The more complicated ones are a bit weird, but
But it's
the simple ones, like if you listen to some simple ones, it's like whoa.
yeah. But it's huge progress. I mean, the fact that that is even listenable. Like if that was playing in the background,
You would know.
it'd be fine, right?
Yeah, you would know that that's like AI generated.
Huh.
So.
Okay.
Hmm.
That's kind of spicy. I like it. Speaking of spicy,
Spicy.
Nasher, do you want to introduce the next topic?
Yeah,
I feel
so-
like these are Nashery topics to introduce.
Yeah.
So Elon Musk, every month or so he has some new controversy in the news. But we in our notes we have this labeled as Elon Musk's Neuralink monkey madness. If anyone's wondering, but basically a bunch of people are kind of mad that Elon Musk has been Neuralink is his new startup. I say new, it's been like a year or something now, which is trying to make computer human interfaces, specifically computer brain or human brain interfaces. Basically, chips stick in brain, do things, make brain life easier. That's what they do. And they've been testing them on monkeys because obviously they're not at the stage where they can be tested on humans. And last year, I say, Neuralink released a video of like a monkey playing Pong with just its brain, and it was really cool. And it played it pretty well, and it wasn't like incentivized by like treats or actually kind of I think it was, but like it thought about it after a while. It just started playing the game normally, right? Like as if it was a person. But recently, the animal's been dying, and that's kind of not Pog. So everyone's kind of mad that the monkeys are dying. There's I think 22 or something. 20.
22?
Wait,
But it's
bruh.
total monkeys. No. There's 22 total
What?
monkeys. And there is a fraction, like a big fraction of those who have died. I'm trying to find the number, and a lot of
I
people.
think I read 6 were euthanized.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of people are kind
Let
of
me
mad.
fact check that.
A lot of people are mad that it's animal abuse by sticking stuff in their brain. So yeah, that's basically the thing. The topic here is that, do you think people are gonna like, the government's gonna like come down on Neuralink, or do you think they're not gonna give a shit, or do you think people are gonna be like, stop like supporting him? Like, what's happening here?
Um, I don't think government's gonna care. I think Twitter's gonna care a lot. To be
Yeah.
honest with you, I think that's where
Yeah.
like 90% of the backlash is gonna come from. Like my opinion, but I
Mhm.
mean, maybe the government will do something. Um, yeah, I don't really know. This Neuralink thing is crazy.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
also a macaw monkey that like could control a joystick with its mind too, which is kind of cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. So first off, they have to draw the causal link to say that it was Neuralink that was killing them, right? To
Mm-hmm.
be able to shut down Neuralink or like take the research back several steps to prior to animal
mm-hmm.
testing,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's that step first. So I don't think legally they have the grounds to shut down the research yet, but they do probably have the grounds to say, okay, you need to take a break while we research this, while we
Thank
find
Yeah.
out
you for the
what went
follow,
wrong.
Nish. Appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank you very
buddy.
much.
Thanks, Nish.
Thank you.
So I think that's step one.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with Mac that Twitter's going to go on a rampage.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just what Twitter does. And it's the big tech company, which everybody hates right now.
And
Like
it's
culture.
Elon Musk.
And it's Elon Musk, who has become very popular to hate as well. Granted, for pretty good reason. So I think there's going to be a lot of backlash, and then Twitter's going to lose interest in the topic when the next big thing happens,
Mm-hmm.
right? This is not going to last long, and what it's going to come down to is actual investigation into if Neuralink was causing these damages and what to do next. But I mean, that's kind of the point of this
Yeah.
testing, right? I don't want to be it's a little macabre, but if that's is that how you pronounce the word? I've seen it read.
Macabre. Yeah, no, it
Yeah,
is.
Mm-hmm.
tight. But that's the point of the animal testing, to make sure that we don't accidentally kill people.
Yeah.
But yeah, there needs to be research into making sure that these animals are treated fairly, and that they're not being hurt and harmed and all of those things. We need to make sure there's no animal cruelty there. But
So the issue with this, right, is like there has been some things said by the people who are filing a public record lawsuit against Neuralink for this. The issue is a lot of these things are kind of pointing fingers and saying this is what happened. So basically, the Physicians Committee that's filed a second, this is the second one, by the way, not the first, a public records lawsuit. They allege in the lawsuit that staff at the university removed pieces of the skulls of reused macabre monkeys and inserted electrodes into the animals' brains. The lawsuit alleges that monkeys were not provided with adequate veterinary care and that an unapproved substance known as bioglue killed monkeys by destroying portions of their brain. In Neuralink's blog, they said that there was a complication, a surgical one, with that bioglue, which is FDA approved bioglue apparently, and that monkey specifically was euthanized because of it, which is fair, I guess, because you can't just let it live.
yeah,
But I guess like I kind of agree. Like I love animals and I don't want them to be hurt, but obviously you kind of need to test with animals, like before, like even if you put in billions and trillions of dollars into like the R&D, like the trials might still kill something, right? Like it's a given. You can't just. There's no way to like 100% guarantee nothing dies.
yeah, and it's it sounds extremely jarring right away, right? The things that you described, the removal of pieces of the skull and stuff like that, that is a very visceral image, which the emotional response to that is just, oh my God, stop. Right?
Yeah.
Stop them. They're horrible, evil, mad scientists. And that's my immediate emotional response. But I also imagine
It's
like,
not like crazy. It's
but how else do you implant the chip?
yeah. Also, like the way worse things happen to animals during testing, like
Really?
chopping off
Oh,
a part of
God.
your skull. Like we do that to humans too when they need stuff
Yeah.
in their brain.
For surgery.
Yeah, even when like there's a brain hemorrhage, you cut off part of the skull's not gonna like you don't feel pain in the skull. Like there's no neurons there. So like cutting off a piece of your brain, putting something in, and putting it back there is like not the biggest. Like it's way worse. Like that's not even a bad thing in my eyes. Like
Yeah, it's just such an extremely
oh yeah, it's
gruesome
very
thing to imagine that it
Yeah.
evokes such emotional response, which I think is gonna be
A
one of the
Twitter-
driving factors. Yeah, on
Exactly.
Twitter and like, I don't know. I don't feel like I have. This is one of those things where I'm gonna say like, I need to see experts talk about this because there's just no way I can form even an uninformed opinion about this thing and do it justice, because it's like I just don't know what it takes to do these sorts of things.
Also, monkeys are kind
to-
of cute.
That's true. It's really tough, but it's also like poor monkeys. Like what a way to go, getting your skull hacked at and
Yeah.
electrodes prodded in your brain and stuff like that. Um,
So
I'm really interested. I remember seeing like a early Neuralink demo with pigs. I wonder if they had any of the same issues when they did tests on pigs. I'd be interested to like look that up actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It would also be just a huge shame if this turned out to be that Neuralink didn't treat the animals properly, not that Neuralink itself was flawed, like the technology was flawed, and so the research isn't, because the research wasn't done correctly and ethically, that the actual technology doesn't get to like continue, right?
Yeah.
Again, anytime you take ethics shortcuts, what's really happening is you're ruining your research.
yeah, you're
right?
giving it a negative rep, even though it's not the research itself. Yeah.
And you can't persist with it because you've just ruined the reputation of it. So that would be really disappointing to see, if like, because it's not like they're lacking money. This is like, this is Tesla's umbrella here. They had every opportunity to treat these animals correctly, and that's assuming that they died because of animal mistreatment. We have to wait till we know
really
better.
important in research. Like you could get people fully paralyzed to just be normal again, right? Like this is crazy.
healthy.
If 100 years, yeah, my bad. But like in 100 years, this could be like insane level tech, and it would be a shame for it to just die because some guy just didn't treat monkeys right. Because it could change lives. Like this is some crazy level tech, right? Like this is insane.
I think there's the other question, and it's popped up in ethics discussions and research before. Something I hadn't thought about when discussing ethics of, I work in like technology enhanced learning, so we're introducing like intelligent tutoring systems and stuff like that. If you have a tool that you believe can improve somebody's life in some way, whether it's they can learn faster, more efficiently, less painfully, right? Learning is a painful process, in my opinion, right? It's just hard. If you can do those things, and you want to do a control group versus an experimental group, is it ethical to not provide those resources that can improve lives in some way to a control group? And I think that comes down, that is relevant here with Neuralink. It's like, if it is true that you can enable somebody to walk again using Neuralink, if that's truly down the road with this technology, then not exploring it is that
unethical,
unethical, right?
But then you could also have like, even if there's like a 1% risk that you could make somebody walk again, but you could also make them a vegetable and completely fry their brain. Like, is that worth it? Is that a chance worth taking? And is it ethical to take that chance? But
I think
I feel like there's
I think like, this is like when the tech is proven to be like good. Is it would it be a shame for people like, no, that's not like, we have CRISPR in down here, which is the same argument where like people are like against the idea of being able to design your baby. Which sure, that's weird, but you could also stop a lot of diseases from ever even happening and kind of kill them. But would you stop it because of those other ethical things? It's like the balance, I guess.
Yeah, that's true.
It's such a tricky spot. I don't know, because you can look at, there's a lot of fiction, science fiction around human augmentation and machine human interfaces.
Okay.
And there's always the discussion of like the non-augments and stuff like that, the people who refuse to be augmented and the disadvantage that they're at. And the same discussion comes around CRISPR. I forget the movie. There was a movie about this in like the late 90s or early 2000s where they had taken this to the final degree where everyone was genetically augmented in some way except for this one guy. And he wasn't allowed to participate in certain aspects of community because it was unsafe, because he didn't have certain immunities to viruses and stuff like that. It's really crazy. So
I see.
yeah, I mean, this is why the continued research in philosophy and ethics is so valuable, but people don't see that, because how do you come to a conclusion about something this complicated from a cultural, societal standpoint without the exploration of it in that degree?
A good point in chat. Talking about installing a chip in your head and the risk of it going wrong. We already do surgeries with 3% chances of failure, including optional surgeries and vanity surgeries. Very good point.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So there's precedence for sometimes there are vain reasons to take small percentage, but still percentage chances of losing your life.
Yeah.
And this
No,
is sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just thinking like because I was thinking about your control group example, and I was thinking like just the ethics about like from that perspective, like not giving a control group something that you know is gonna better their experience because you're testing it out. It's the same as like doing a surgery. Like is a surgeon doing a surgery when they know there's a risk unethical?
Right.
Like I see similarities there, is what I was trying to say.
Huh.
I'm all for tech being progressed further, like, mostly. So my opinion on this is very like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. You tend to take a very utilitarian standpoint where you're like, if it betters people, then it's worth taking the risks.
Yeah.
And damn people who deny it because it's weird. Right?
Exactly.
Because it's different. Right? It's just like, well, does it have utility and does it improve people's lives?
Because
Then
at the end of the
explore
day,
it.
everything new is weird, and then after a while, it's not weird.
Yeah.
My biggest thing with Neuralink is and always has been what happens when stuff breaks, what happens when stuff fails, what happens when somebody figures out a way to hack it or exploit it, or that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the same concern is present with things like pacemakers and stuff, right? So
Pacemakers can be hacked, by the way. Yeah, like definitely they can. Yeah.
Yeah, so that concern already exists, and it's, I mean, the heart is that's vital, but it is, I think, from an emotional point of view, extremely scary that it's in the brain, because it means that the brain is where you are. Your body is what you're in control of, but that's where you and your thoughts are from.
You're saying
and
you
so
can't
when
do
you
a
have
heart
direct
transplant,
access,
but you can do a heart transplant, but you can't do a brain transplant.
yeah, right. So it's like direct access into the way that you think. There's a different, like, killing somebody or dying that's a scary thought, but it's even scarier for a lot of people to think of no longer being themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that's why Neuralink in particular is going to be extra scary.
Yeah. And there's no escaping from your brain. So the concept of privacy in that way is kind of gone, right? Like every sense you feel, everything you see, everything you hear, that's all going through your brain. So essentially everything is. You can't hide away or have an aspect of your life that's private when you're interconnected into some. We'll see, like
targeted ads in your field of view.
Or in your dreams.
Yeah, like you can like
business.
A paid plan to have cool dreams, or you could take the free dream plan where like after every dream there'll be like a 2-minute ad break.
That's literally, you guys have heard of the show like the Jetsons, right? It's like the Flintstones, but in the future, kind of. I remember seeing like a clip or an episode when I was little. It was like some rerun on TV or something, that was like literally the kid went to bed and was like scrolling through what dream they wanted and
Oh my god,
then played it. It's crazy.
that is so.
I think it's
okay,
inevitable.
Yeah, I do want to point out. Jester Sheriff brought up some interesting points again, but there's the point of if you want a control group, just ask the people who don't want to take the risk. The problem with that is then it's now the control group and the experimental group. It often has to be double blind for the experiment to have really strong validity. So by asking a group and knowing their beliefs, you can taint the study by exposing who's in what group.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too.
So-
You need somebody who like is completely like
Yeah, but yeah, I, with data privacy, yeah, agreed. There are ways around this, and we're certainly simplifying the brain here because none of us are neurologists, right?
No.
None of us are even in that space, because if you plant a chip in one part of the brain, it doesn't mean necessarily that you have any impact over other parts of the brain.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think it's really interesting, and there's a lot of potential for data privacy, right? It doesn't have to be transmitting. Right? It could be local and information stored. So there are ways around this. It's just when we're talking about big data, it's not like they've respected our privacy in the past.
Yeah.
Oh no! Like once if this
That's
becomes
the thing about-
mainstream, it's definitely gonna be it's definitely gonna be used for data. Like it's not even an argument. Sooner or later, someone's gonna definitely find a benefit from getting people to give their data through Neuralink. 100%.
Yeah. But it's also the hacked thing. Like, imagine if a politician had a Neuralink and somebody could hack it or something like that. Like, the implications about that is crazy.
I want your big data, Nathan. By the way,
Big data.
Thanks, Johnny. You can have it anytime. I've got lots of data. Some companies still, yeah, lots of companies still aren't respecting your data. And yes, yeah, you do consent either way to being part of the experimental group or the control group. So, in that regard, the ethical concern is largely diminished, I think. Okay,
But yeah.
that was spicy.
Yeah.
That was a tough topic to navigate, and I think we might have said some things that may be later found offensive. I apologize in advance if we use the wrong terminology for some things. We were not trying to, but it's certainly a really interesting discussion.
Yeah.
The monkeys are
All right.
cute, so.
Something less controversial.
But very highly
less-
opinionated.
Oh, we've got opinions on everything. Give me something you're not even supposed to have an opinion on. I got you. Let's dive into EV adoption. So I know we've got a couple car people in the chat, or at least in the community, but
Ugh.
there's been a lot of news lately on EV adoption, and I want to jump in through some of it and then get to the topic or the discussion
I
itself.
think
So
I heard Nathan Nosher say monkeys are worth less than people. I think that was not me, actually. Surprisingly, I did not say that.
Hey, guys, for anybody watching this in the future, I never brought up that point ever. That was all Nosher.
So Nosher's opinion today. Remember when you're voting on the man with the best opinion? Nosher hates monkeys. So
Wow.
And ethical frameworks. But
any ethical,
I have no ethical
frameworks, yeah.
framework. Yeah.
None. So, okay, EV adoption. We've got a couple really, really exciting things. So first off, Michigan is doing some graphite processing factory stuff to support EV battery production. So that's huge. The US is committing to fast chargers every 50 miles. We do not have a time frame on that.
And it is the
that I
U.S.
know of.
government saying it, too.
Yeah, so, next time we switch to a different leadership, they might just go, EVs
No.
are the past. We're going back to coal. So there's that. And then we
future is
also
the
have
steam engine.
It's like
Steamboat
Fallout.
Willie was an American classic. We need to
Yes.
return to that. So there's that. Tesla had a bunch of its supercharger cables stolen at a brand new station, so a touch of a setback. And then, on the other side of things, Lamborghini wants to continue manufacturing gas-powered cars into 2030, which I think is really, really interesting when everybody else is going in the complete opposite direction.
Johnny covered the question in chat that we're going to talk about. That's so funny.
Do you believe production of new diesel-powered vehicles will be banned at some point in the near future? That's actually, yeah, Nosher's right. That's one of the things we're going to cover. So, okay, first off, I want your estimates on when we're going to have widespread electric vehicle adoption in North America.
Give me a definition of widespread. Give me like a percentage. 80,
The
90.
majority of consumer vehicles, and so just, you know, regular folks making average income, right, are switching over to electric vehicles.
Okay. It's like a Toyota Corolla.
Most vehicles, yeah, right. Most vehicles being produced at the, you know, Toyota and Honda level are EVs, and there's much less concern of, oh, I don't want an EV because I want to be able to go camping, and where the heck am I going to go charge this thing, right? It's just that concern is quelled. So basically, 50% or more are on the EV grind. Go.
Realistically, 2050. A lot of companies have vowed to like stop production of gas-powered cars, but there's a bunch of asterisks next to that, where it's like a certain percentage of our production or a certain amount of cars or blah blah blah. Where it basically means that they're still going to be producing gas-powered cars for a while. There's the majority of the production is going to be gas-powered, electric-powered, which is still great. Just it's not going to be banned. I'm gonna say 2050.
2050, you're like way out there.
Yeah, I'm saying like that as well. It's just the infrastructure around the gas engine is so ingrained into society.
Yeah.
Like even people who are like lower income can have a car, and it's gonna be really tough when they're faced with like, okay, your gas car is is becoming obsolete and you can't afford a new electric car. You know, like, is that really fair? Is that fair to just be like, oh, you're not going to be able to buy affordable gas or have a place to fill up, you know, near your work or whatever, and you have to sell your car, even though you're not making a lot of money, and your car's probably not going to be worth anything if gas infrastructure, you know, fades out. Like, your Honda Civic is going to be worth nothing. The value is going to plummet. It's going to be worth its price in scrap metal.
Yeah, so I hadn't thought of the other side of it, which is when EVs are adopted, that means that gas-powered vehicles are going to, like, the infrastructure for that is going to diminish as well. So I think that's an interesting point. I think so Ray pointed out 2035. I think 50% people... 50% of cars on the road being EVs might be pushing it for 2035, but I think the infrastructure is going to be largely in place in urban settings by 2035. And I think the reason for this is there is urban and like urban adjacent, you know? So Ontario almost as a whole is going to be fine, even though, yes, technically there are sort of rural parts of Ontario, but you'll be able to get from one of those parts to the other part through those rural areas without too much trouble. So I think 2035 for that level of adoption. And I had another thought and it just left me.
Because sooner or later, gas-powered engines, realistically, 150 years from now, dead. No one's using them. Gone. Tractors are electric. Buses are electric. Everything's electric. 150 years-ish. Because they're just not efficient. Like, sooner or later, we'll make electric way more efficient than gas.
Okay, yeah. I remembered my point. Okay, so there's, I mean, really massive investment companies like BlackRock, for example, right? There's what is it, ESG compliance, which essentially is about they only invest and encourage people under their umbrella to only invest in companies that are moving towards green initiatives and stuff like that. So with that in mind, there's going to be massive incentive financially to push for EV adoption as soon as it's feasible, right? As soon as it's like you don't have a good reason for not being in EVs as an automotive company, then it's just gonna come down like a rock. They're just gonna hit, and they're gonna say like, look, we can't be investing in gas-based car companies. We just can't be doing that anymore. Yeah. And so when that happens, boom, acceleration is gonna be crazy on that. So that's my thought process here. But I think the Lamborghini thing is interesting because this is where the car guys come in. This is where people who are into cars are going to say, "No, I need my car to roar when
Yeah.
when I hit the gas," right? And so I think companies like Lamborghini, maybe like Mustangs and stuff, like muscle car companies and stuff like that, and lines, there will be a niche for people who love cars, just like people like there's a niche for like driving manual when automatic is for most people more effective.
Gas will be cheap when everyone goes EV. I don't think so.
No, it's gonna be so expensive.
Because gas is also a depleting resource, like an exponentially depleting resource, right? Like very finite. And it won't have a use, so why would you bother extracting it from the earth? Like I'm again, a use like 150 years, 200 years down the road, maybe. It won't have a use anymore, so why bother extracting it, right?
Yeah.
I think Johnny makes a really interesting point, though, that the fossil fuel industry will lobby and fight the whole way through. And yeah,
It's true. Yeah.
I mean, look at the cigarette industry. My God, did those guys fight to continue to pollute not only the environment but our lungs? Right?
Yeah.
God bless
So,
them. Don't. I'm joking.
God
man.
bless them.
No.
But I think, sorry, go ahead, Mac.
No, I just laughed. No, that was not me interrupting.
Okay.
It's like a
I
weird
think
laugh.
that's a perfect lead in to the is it ethical to continue making gas powered vehicles in the future when EVs are more efficient, assuming this is what happens, right? They become more efficient, they're not more expensive to produce, all of those sorts of things, right? They're just better objectively. Is it ethical to continue producing them?
I have a point. I have a point about this. So I actually brought this up because yesterday I was thinking, I was like, it's not ethical. It's like not ethical at all. And I thought about it a bit more. And now I'm thinking, transportation does not make up a substantial amount. It makes up a good amount, but not the majority of pollution, right? There's a lot worse things that accommodate to that.
Okay.
I think having a minority of gas cars is fine. It's just a little thing, people like it. It's cool. It's not majorly affecting the climate. It's polluting, sure, but it's not like a major contributor anymore. Like, let's say if 90% of cars are electric now, I think it's like a minute, little thing that it's fine. It's good. There's a threshold, right, of like something going over and being very pollutant, and having something and be like, okay, it's fine. Everyone enjoys it. It's cool. And I think it'll be in that threshold where it's like, yeah, sure, it's fine. Who cares?
Yeah, it'll be an enthusiast space.
Exactly.
I would agree that, I would be fine with it being an enthusiast space, but maybe we should tack on the other. You know what they did with like cigarette marketing afterwards? They were like, you also have to tell them about the cancer, right? You have to tell them about all of these other things that can happen. I feel like when you're selling a car, at that point, you also have to say, okay, now remember how that fossil fuels got there, right? Just.
I just don't think it's that bad, like that amount of
I
fossil.
have a hot take on this.
Okay.
Okay.
I think if, let's say, a gasoline-powered car and an EV are similar price, EV is like obviously more efficient in the future. I think it's actually very unethical to buy a gas car, like
Okay.
because you're needlessly producing emissions, right? There's no need, right? It's like other enthusiast stuff. Like if I'm into guitars and I play an electric guitar, that's not making emissions just by using it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of stupid to just be like I could be like, oh, I'm interested in throwing garbage in public places. Like, too bad, right? Too bad you're interested in doing that. It's not right to do that. You're littering as against the law. It's just kind of needless, I think. And yeah, I agree. Like with the pollution thing, sure. Like transportation isn't causing the majority of pollution, but looking at the state of climate change and stuff like that, we like radical action needs to be taken. It hasn't been taken for years and years and years and years, and it's getting to the point where not doing it, not making radical change, like when it's very obvious that there's a green alternative at a comparable price. I don't know. I just think it's kind of idiotic not to make change like that.
See, my thing is that a lot of these big corporations, right, who have like told us like, hey, you should recycle, you should reuse less water, you should use the bus instead of the car. There's a huge thing where these are the same companies who are making like 70% of emissions or something. Very unverified fact. It's roughly 70%. I don't know the exact numbers. Don't correct me on it, but it's not important. But the 70% of like emissions, or a higher percentage, are coming from like manufacturing plants and these big companies and all these things. And their way of like alleviating all the problems being piled onto them is to tell normal people, hey, like if you do these small things, you'll impact the climate. Which arguably, it is better to recycle. Obviously, I recycle. It is better to take the bus. It is better to not litter on the floor. It's better to use paper over plastic. Sure. But that's not going to change anything. These big companies being like, told that, hey, you're the problem is what's going to change it. And I think making people not buy like gas-powered cars. I don't like gas-powered. I'm an electric guy too. But telling them not to buy gas-powered cars is just another way you're kind of giving into these big companies, like putting the blame on you versus taking the blame on themselves, onto themselves. I feel like if the companies took the blame onto themselves, we'd have a lot more room to like do these things, and they wouldn't impact the climate. It'd be like a 10 to a negative 19 effect on the climate type of deal. You're driving your gas-powered car,
I agree, but it's the whole like two wrongs don't make a right. Like just because the corporate aspect isn't getting that much better, it doesn't mean the consumer like realm of climate change should just continue to maintain the status quo. I think. Like this is what I think should happen. My ideal system is, in the future, you want a gas car? Sure. You should get taxed in a way that kind of offsets the damage you're doing to the environment, and then the government can take that tax money, put that revenue into green initiatives and stuff that might offset some of that climate change.
Okay.
I would only be okay with that if there was a guarantee that money went to green initiatives.
Well, there's no guarantee. If it's the government, there's no guarantee. So
But it's like the carbon tax that they did in Canada, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Rage of coming out of the hot take: tax not equal POC.
That's actually a really interesting point Johnny brought up, that the onus is on the manufacturer. So if you continue to produce gas-based vehicles, then the manufacturer is the one who pays the tax. It's part of their carbon tax.
That's true, but then what's going to happen is manufacturers are going to move to countries that don't impose that tax, and people are going to import the vehicles.
Briodoni made a really good point. Where there's only a few cars left, getting gas might also become very difficult, which is inherently a tax in itself.
But that
and
tax
also those
can't
cars are going to be hugely
anything.
marked up. Yeah, but like you're acting like the government's going to do anything with it.
Well, okay. If we're talking about ideals, they would.
Okay.
This is an ideal situation.
Sure. Okay.
So, yeah.
This is definitely a really interesting topic. Like I'm very interested to see how this kind of pans out.
Me too. Everything we've talked about this week so far has been just really fascinating to talk about. Oh my god. Taxing corporation who pays for it in the end, the consumer. Yeah, that's true. But so actually, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about. When we're talking about enthusiast niche goods, there is always a tax in air quotes, right? There is always a fee for buying enthusiast small, like minimally produced products, right? So even if they're not super premium stuff, it's just the fact that it's a small audience means that you don't get that economies of scale benefit, and you are paying a tax for being in a niche. And so I think, exactly. When I think that's exactly what's going to happen here is gas vehicles are going to be exclusive to things like Lamborghini. And I think Lamborghini knows this, and they're saying they're Lamborghini. They're the guys that do this. They make niche enthusiast vehicles, the thing that you dream of as a kid. Right, so they're gonna lay into that, and in 2030, when Honda Civics are completely EV and everyone's charging, they're gonna do ads or like about how everyone else is living as part of an algorithm, right? But you're free, you remember, right? Like that's gonna be the ad play that you live differently, right? That's the vibe they're gonna give.
why charge when you can roar?
Yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
gonna be the vibe. So, and so like muscle cars are gonna stay gasoline.
Yeah, Lamborghini. I will do your marketing.
So, I'm super interested, but I think in general, I agree with you, Mac, that in general it's not perfectly ethical to continue producing gas vehicles, but I have an empathy for people with just niche interests in stuff, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
just fun to be part of one of those niche interest groups, and I don't want that taken away from people. So it would be great if, like Nosher said, the onus, and Johnny said that the onus is on the manufacturers to deal with this mostly, and we make change there so that personal liberties don't have to be sacrificed.
Because I feel like the ethicality is dependent on like the overall effect versus like a singular personal effect. I feel like it's bad to look at ethically like that. Like, obviously, yeah, ethically cars produce carbon, bad, unethical. In the bigger picture, 5% of cars producing carbon, ethical. That's fine. That's my.
I think largely I'd agree. It's really the principle versus the practice here. Where Mac's saying just by principle, look, we got to make the fucking change. We got to do the thing. All right, and Nosher's saying, okay, I mean, by that point we have made the change. There's just a small group, and at that point, who cares? So, yeah. Okay.
Let's talk about stupid things.
Oh, absolutely.
Who wants to?
Is it?
Yeah, it's the Intel. It's the Intel boy.
Intel's pay-as-you-go CPU.
Oh my god. Okay, I don't know how I feel about this yet, but essentially,
Actually,
the story is this:
Sorry.
Intel's.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
I'm gonna read some of the thoughts out in the chat, and then you can introduce the next story. So,
Good call.
Some people. So Johnny said it's a wealth thing, like how only rich people own horses now. Good point. Also, part of the issue is we don't have any international guidelines for this sort of thing, or rather, we kind of do, but who wants to enforce that? Lol. Good point.
Yeah. I mean, those sorts of things need to be enforced through like country taxation, right? You just have to tax manufacturers in those regards. The only incentive that works is either the only incentive that works on manufacturers and large scale companies is profit. That is the only thing you can do, and if you can harm profit, then you can get them to take action. That is it. There's nothing else, right? Because I mean, how many times has Apple been slapped on the wrist with like $400 million fines on $5 billion of profits? Do you think they care?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So yeah. Okay. Intel pay as you go. We doing this thing?
Intel pay
As you go.
Not sure. Do you wanna run this one or?
You go for it, bro.
Me?
You go for
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
So, Intel. Now this is specifically for their Xeon processors, which is their server line, is introducing what they call software-defined silicon, right? So this is, and I really want to read more into this because it's very complex and it hasn't been fully fleshed out. But eventually, basically, what it comes down to is you can pay for features on their silicon after. So you buy a model, and you can enable features through probably a subscription fee. And so the way we learned about this is Linux kernel 5.18 is including drivers for this, and there's been a lot of work on that. It's really interesting stuff, but we're back to this issue.
The chat.
Let's go DLC.
EA. Everyone's EA in the chat.
The EA of silicon, yeah. So it comes back to the same topic we've been talking about, where things that weren't services before, like features on your car, Tesla, right, are now being considered as things that you might be able to buy a subscription because software is so relevant in vehicles nowadays. And now it's coming down to processors. I have no idea how software-defined silicon works. And the way it's being explained to start with is, of course, this is a good thing, right? You can buy a cheaper model and then you can upgrade it later. Nobody needs all the features, so you can just buy the features that you need.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's how this plays out.
What do you think it plays out like then?
I think it plays out like you forget to renew your subscription or something, and you're just like, why is my computer so slow? Oh, that's why, because half of the CPU is locked.
Oh yeah, my bad. Our sysadmin guy forgot, or the sysadmin gets called in on a weekend because finance didn't pay to make sure that the subscription fee is for their vital software on their CPUs is running, and so I don't know, half of North America's down for CIBC or something. Like,
Yeah.
that could be absolutely bonkers. But I think, I don't know, it's interesting because this is servers, so it's less likely to affect consumers directly. This is I mean, server farms are gonna worry about this. Yet. Yeah. Okay, make the point. You know what you're saying with that. Come on.
No, I'm just saying anything that happens to servers is like the elite, of society. Suddenly it'll trickle down to consumer level things too. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah.
So it is like a case study to see what happens before it happens to us, essentially. I made this argument before, I think, in a earlier podcast too. I think, hot take, I think having this service thing is kind of beneficial. It could be beneficial. Depends how it is applied, but it overall could make things cheaper. Okay, it could add less points of failure, right? Because if you're just disabling, like, again, there's a lot of features on a server-side CPU that most CPU servers don't need. They're very niche things, like very niche things that only a few server farms need. And having those turned off, great. More security, less points of failure, because it's literally a hardware lock, right? There's no way to, unless a guy goes in and physically does something. It's another point of failure eliminated. It's a less thing to maintain and worry about. It's cheaper, and then it might be better. It might be better for the manufacturer. It might be more cost efficient. It might be less emissions, because now there's one streamlined process of making the CPU rather than 10 different models of a CPU. I don't know, but that's like obviously a best case. Obviously, like, it could not be that. It could be more expensive to make. It could admit more things, but not sure EA employee confirmed.
Oh my gosh.
So, I think I would agree. The ideal situation is that there's cost savings due to the simplified manufacturing, and they push those savings down towards the consumers, right? That's the dream. So
But
we've
they
saved
don't
money,
really.
so you should. But they won't.
Because this is the thing with the subscription, is it never ends, right? Like, you're paying, like, if it's monthly, let's say you're paying every single month. Like, there's never going to be like, oh, it's not like a payment plan where you're paying every month and then eventually one day it's paid off and you own it. It's not like that. You're continually paying all the time, and that is ultimately long term more expensive than buying one product that's built really well for more money and it's going to last you a long time, I think.
I feel like the cost savings could also come from, is the company you're subscribing to providing you with like service, like, repairs and all that shit. And if they are, maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's more cheaper. If they don't, then maybe it's actually shit. Again, it really depends on like the application, right? Because like, again, like, you own a company, you having your servers on prem, a lot more expensive. You have the security of like, you only own it yourself, but then maintenance, people have to know how to use it. It's your own technology versus using AWS. Sure, it's they're paying for it now. It might cost you more in the long term, but it's cheaper, less salary, it's standardized, easier to use, security, blah blah blah. I think it's that argument. It really depends on like the implementation.
That's a good point.
It depends on like what they, because there's no information like on what they're doing, right?
Yeah. There's also, like, it hasn't been confirmed that they're going to use a subscription model, right? It could be that you buy the CPU, you register it with Intel, and then at that point you sign up for packages, right? Yeah. Feature packages. So you pay $50. I want the what do they call it? The Intel virtualization package, because I want to use WSL, right? Boom. Okay, you pay $50. And
a one-time fee, right? You're talking about the one-time fee. Yeah,
one-time fee.
If it's that, that's crazy good, I think, in my opinion, if it's like that.
Then what you're getting is a modular CPU, right? You're
that
getting,
is sick.
And that's phenomenal. So there's actually a ton of potential here for this to be really, really good. And again, in the ideal situation, those savings are passed down to the consumer. I don't believe that they will be. Right?
Yeah, I think
they're going to say, well,
think they
if
will.
there's adequate competition from AMD, that's
Okay.
when those, right?
Yeah.
If not, then Intel's just gonna go, we have this unique product, everybody needs it, and we're gonna sell it for as much as we can get
I feel like
right?
Intel's too scared of messing up the market again. I think they're gonna make it cheaper, even if AMD doesn't compete. I think they're too scared of losing that lead again, because the AMD lead was crushing like recently.
Yeah. Well,
But
I don't know
Intel doesn't
how,
learn their
how they're
lesson
doing
historically, so I'm wrong. I could be wrong. They never learn
Well,
their lesson.
AMD just recently, I think for the first time, and I read this like in a cursory Reddit scrolling, but I think AMD just passed Intel for market cap.
Poggers,
Really?
let's go. AMD,
That's
let's
insane.
Go.
And
Oh, man.
it is.
It's the better
I think,
processor.
Yeah. Well, currently, I think right now, I think the thing that we should do with this is follow up. As the next time we find news on the Intel scalable CPUs, we got to make sure that we cover it, because this is an interesting story, and unlike the other ones that we talked about this week, which are fascinating and will continue to develop, they're going to develop over the course of 10 years. This is going to develop
Over, like,
the
months.
course of the next couple months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this
Also-
is going to be really fascinating.
Whereas also the argument about, so I feel like it is more efficient and maybe it is more less emissions in a factory, but is it more wasteful to have all those unused physical things in the processor? That's an argument someone made in the Discord actually. And I thought it'd be interesting to bring that up. What do you guys think of that? Do you think it could be like, is it a balance, or you think it's wasteful?
It could be a balance, because you think about like the tooling maybe required to make like a whole line of different processors versus like one set of tools and like one assembly line for one type of packaging, right? Like it kind of eliminates certain aspects, but then like you said, each part that's unutilized on the chip is kind of just a waste of space.
Yeah, yeah, that is, I think, valid, right? Because you're considering the hardware's there. The CPU is capable of this thing, and there is nothing stopping Intel from just giving you access to those capabilities.
Yeah.
And so you might even say, it's unethical to not provide you access to those features when the capability is there. It's right there. So that's
Just
I
crack your
don't know.
CPU, bro.
Yeah.
That's
just
gonna
down
happen.
this-
Do you guys?
That's
Yeah,
gonna happen.
they're gonna hack it. Like they're gonna find ways to unlock those portions of the CPU without paying.
Oh, I'm
Some
guaranteeing
people are.
you. Guaranteeing you, there's gonna be like a $20 USB on Amazon you can buy, plug into your computer, like load it up, boom, it upgrades your CPU, unlocks it fully, 100%.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to buy it on Amazon, but you will be able to buy it. So yeah, when it comes to so here's the interesting thing: when it comes to consumers, enthusiasts will crack it. That will happen, right? This happens with graphics cards, where people realize my 3060 is really 3070 capable. I just right, like I got
There's an
a
artificial
gem here.
hashing rate on this. Let me just turn that off real quick.
Yeah, right. That's gonna happen. But on the server side thing, when we're dealing with large scale, real systems administrators, a full team,
Definitely not.
they're not cracking shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Because they need the warranty. They need to be able to go back to Intel and say, look, we need help with this. This is right. They need all of those things, and they need stability over performance.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And it also doesn't look good on any business when you're cheating another business to inflate your profits.
yeah, exactly. It's fine if Linus Tech Tips cracks his Intel i9, because why not?
Yeah.
It's not fine when CIBC does this, right? It's not fine when AWS does this. So
It'd be pretty funny though.
yeah, it'd be hilarious if we found out later Bezos made the call. You're like, crack him, just crack him.
I honestly though, in a couple of years, catch me cracking my Ryzen 5 9600, bro. Just watch me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Imagine getting, imagine buying a laptop and having to pay extra to unlock Wi-Fi access. Imagine getting a whole 4-year degree and having to do extra projects to get a job after grad. Oh wait.
Oof.
Engineer took a little zap at us there.
The engineers are taking shots at computer scientists. Come on, guys. We all know
We already
engineers
take
are
our
getting
jobs.
software jobs.
Yeah, name every engine.
You can't.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've covered that one.
Yeah.
Nosher, Hit us with the rapid fire news.
Yo,
dumb stuff.
so everyone knows Donald J. Trump.
Buckle up, buckaroos.
Everybody knows Donald Trump. He was an interesting person. We talked about this twice now on the podcast, or once or twice, where he's planning to launch a social network called Truth Social, which is a social network of truth, apparently, according to him. That is launched now, which I didn't think was going to happen. There's a bunch of lawsuits behind Truth Social for ripping off an open source social media platform for all the code base. Don't know what happened to that. I guess no one cares now. But it launched. It appeared on the Apple App Store, and it's pretty funny, I think, to talk about. And there's a bunch of issues on launch. There's a bunch of errors. There's a bunch of like 404s or something, and a bunch of 503s. It's pretty funny. That's what I expect from something made by Donald Trump, is to just not work. And the funny thing is, Truth Social isn't hosted by like a regular cloud platform like AWS or Azure. It's hosted on a new cloud service called Rumble, which is basically a combination of like very alt-fart-right YouTube, and it's a cloud service as well. And their website kind of doesn't work half the time. If you go to like their website, like story.rumble.com, I think, and you click on some of the buttons in the nav bar, like the blog button, it doesn't actually do anything.
It's like a full nav bar, but the href of all the links is the same site.
Yeah. Also, if you click on all the buttons, they'll link you to the exact same page.
Yeah.
Like the href, they added a slash after the .com instead of just the hashtag. Which, bro, if you're launching a website for like a ex-president, you think that hashtag would have gone, you think you would have checked the URLs beforehand, but I guess not.
Maybe like tested it.
Yeah, testing exists.
With Trump's history of not paying people for stuff, why would you do good work for him?
I guess, yeah. But yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, no, that's fair. That's fair. I don't know what else to say.
Oh,
really.
Johnny.
What happened? They're not sending the best people. But yeah, it's available on the Apple App Store if you do want to check it out.
How did that make it onto the App Store? That's so crazy that they have such strict rules about what makes it onto the App Store. Right? On the Play Store, I would not be shook, right? If Google published it, it's like, yeah, anything makes it onto the Play Store. That's the point. It's the open ecosystem. But Apple gets to choose. They're like, no, consumer, I know what you want. And they thought they need freedom social.
In a weird way, it's almost meme worthy that Fortnite is not on the Apple App Store, but that is.
Yeah.
You wanna know the stats on the Apple App Store page? So, the slogan. So it's Truth Social. The slogan is "Follow the Truth." Gotta follow the truth. There is a 4.2 star rating with 22.7 thousand ratings, which is a lot of ratings. The top 3 reviews is a 5-star followed by 2 1-stars. So there you go. A lot of issues, not working properly. The app's kind of broken. It has a 17+ rating, which is interesting. I don't know what other social media platforms have as ratings, but
I specifically 17. Like, yeah, you don't have to be like an illegal adult, but
what's the rating for Snapchat on the Apple App Store? Let's check. It is 12+. That's weird.
What? 17? Like, what is the significance behind that?
Well, that's mature. I think that's ESRB rating or something.
Well, I thought that was 18+, because 18's like a legal adult, R-rated movie. You gotta be 18.
Also, why do you have to be so old? I guess it fits the target demographic.
To handle the truth or something like
you can't
stupid.
handle the truth unless you're older than 45. Yeah. Clearly.
No fact checking at all.
Controversy makes them money. That's true. They do have 22.7K ratings on there. But yeah, that happened over the weekend. If you do want to check it out, rumble.com is actually, you know what? Don't check out rumble.com.
Yeah, do not give them.
It's a bad version of YouTube.
Yeah, it's awful.
And the next story that we have is that Windows 11 will now require an internet connection on setup. So historically, when you set up Windows, any of the Windows installations, it asks you to log into your Microsoft account, but you can tell it to do that later, and then you can just install Windows offline. But now in the future, you're gonna have to have an internet connection, or else you can't install Windows. So they're gatekeeping Windows now, or Windows 11 Pro specifically. But
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll be trickled down later to the regular one too. What do you guys think of that?
Doesn't bother me.
I don't know. Like, if I didn't have internet and I was like, just bought a computer, really wanted to use it, I'd be a little bit mad, to say the least.
I mean,
But that's like an edge case.
But like, where is this?
I do feel like it's
Where is
not
this
an
a
edge case
problem?
though. Think about
Like,
the amount of
like
places in the world that don't have internet.
what if I'm in my cabin in Alaska, all right? I unbox my new laptop, my Windows 11 laptop. I want to play Microsoft Solitaire. No internet. There's no internet. The solar storm, it took out like Starlink satellites or whatever. No internet. I want to play my Microsoft Solitaire.
All 13,000 satellites are gone.
All of them are gone. All of them are gone, and I want to play Solitaire. This is BS. I can't. You're telling me I can't?
What's it called?
Purple. Yeah, exactly. Purple Sweat. Minesweeper even.
But okay, how many people are entirely offline? Like, you'll never, like, you are very unlikely to have access to the internet regularly, or at least within a time frame where you're getting a new device, right? So there's that. The other thing is, like, there are alternatives. I mean, I don't know. Like, you can just not pick Windows 11 Pro, and there's Linux.
Ubuntu, yeah, Pop OS.
Right.
There's Linux.
Mint.
Yeah, if I don't have, right, there is the case of, what if I live in a place where there isn't consistent internet access? How many of those folks are buying a new laptop, fresh off the shelves, with Windows 11 Pro, and, like, eager to install it? Right, that's probably not the concern that they're having right now. They probably have an older device. They're probably, I don't know, they probably have, I don't know. You get what I'm saying here?
Think about this.
Yeah.
10 years down the road, you live in a country where internet access is not widespread. 10 years down the road, and you need a new laptop because you're in school now, and you need a laptop. You're 10 years in the future, but you're in a country where internet access is not global. That's very minimal, and you get your assignments and files and stuff through a USB through the school or something, right? So everything's offline, and you need Windows because you need Microsoft Word specifically. Maybe LibreOffice doesn't work, something like that, right? So you need Windows for whatever reason. How are you gonna use a laptop without?
Yeah.
Or you have to go out of your way to go to a public place, internet cafe, and then do that. I feel like it's a bit.
Yeah.
How many? I could be just completely out of touch here. This could be like a first world thing that I'm doing right now, and so I will accept the case that is possible. But how many places are there formal education? Is there formal education happening without any access to internet on those facilities? Is that I'm asking, I'm not.
It's
posing a rhetorical
common,
question.
just not in the West.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in that case, then this is genuinely this. If this persists and they take it down to not just their Pro license, right? If it becomes the entire licensing of Windows 11, that is problematic.
Yeah, because it just feels unnecessary, like, why?
It's like,
Come on, bro.
I agree. I mean, I do think it's not that bad to be like, okay, just for the initial setup, and you could have solutions where, like, if you lived in a country without consistent internet access, maybe the store that sold the laptops would have internet that you could set it up at the store before you brought it home, or something like that would be like a happy medium, maybe. So there could be a solution, but
there's solutions. It's just annoying that there has to be,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just not a fan of. It's like if your car wouldn't start without windshield washer fluid.
Yeah, right.
I like, this has nothing to do with me driving. My windshield is clean. Like, let me drive.
It's like an emergency and you don't have it now. Okay, I have to take my going into labor. Let me just quickly fucking pull windshield wiper into my car.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just quickly emergency install Windows 11. I don't know about this, guys. It doesn't feel like that big a deal. But yeah, I could see how technically it could be possible, and I could definitely be just first world blinders.
It's not a big issue. It's a small inconvenience to people. To a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
In the other parts
that's
of the world,
possible.
where it's like there's a solution. Sure, yeah, you could activate it there. You could go to an internet cafe. You could whatever. But it's just why. I'm like, you shouldn't have to.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason for this is they want, like, Microsoft has been really trying to push the Microsoft account more, right? This is something my dad complains about all the time, where it's like, I want my computer to be its own standalone thing. I do not want a Dave account that ports between multiple computers, and then I have to deal with all this crap because we have multiple computers in the house, and there's the way we handle things is just, there's a computer for a person, right, or something like this, instead of migrating the Microsoft accounts, and it becomes problematic. But they're pushing the Microsoft account, and this is part of that, right? The installation requires your Microsoft account because they want to integrate you through their entire ecosystem with a Microsoft account. And it's very much them trying to say, Apple had it right, guys. Apple's integration of your identity across an ecosystem is great, and we want that. And that's, I think, what's happening is Xbox is becoming part of the same thing.
Let me just join the Microsoft ecosystem with my Windows phone and like my Surface laptop. I don't know. Like, what else do they have?
They have, there's
Xbox.
There's Xbox.
Yeah.
But there is some interesting integration, like I don't know if it's Android or if it's Samsung in particular, but there is the Android Windows.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Man.
And Apple users have had this for a long time.
I copied the OTP on my phone. Like, I literally hold down and copy it, go to my keyboard, Control V, boom, it's there. Don't have to type it out. Don't have to do anything. Don't have to open anything. Just so nice, so good.
Yeah.
The clipboards are synced, and it's so good.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think, of course, there's, right, if we're talking about the Microsoft account thing, there's huge benefits towards integration into an ecosystem, but there's also a lot of drawbacks. Like, I have to be in your ecosystem to take full advantage of it, right? It's annoying. And there's the privacy concerns and so on, but we'll see. We'll see how it plans out. All in all, whatever. Windows 11 Pro requires internet access.
Yep. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Windows Vista.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, Windows Vista, the worst Windows.
The best Windows.
I watched the documentary on Windows Vista, and objectively, it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. I think it's just Windows XP was too good.
It was better than all modern
50-minute
operating
video documentary
systems.
on this. I was so curious. I was like, why? I get it. I hate it. I used it for a long time too. It was slow, but it wasn't that bad. And I was like, okay, I think it's just wrong place, wrong time. It had a cool bunch of technologies. It was just too ahead of its time. Maybe it can slow down too much.
It was so ahead of its time.
Do you remember the Vista commercials that came out a year after that were this is Windows, I forgot what they called it. It was I don't know, Windows Monero or something. I don't know, whatever they called it. This is Windows Monero. That's what I'm gonna call it now. And they would have people come in and test, wow, it's so fast. Is this the new version of Windows? I love this. And then they would go, it's actually Vista.
That was real. That was real. That wasn't just a marketing ploy. That was real. I wish it was just an ad.
Gosh.
I wish it was just an ad. That was real.
No, it was they marketed. It was the whole ad. There's they had people's faces, and it was I love the new Windows Vista. Now that I thought it was Monero, I don't know why I've decided that it's called this cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
it was something like that. No, you're exactly right.
Right? It started with an M, didn't it?
It was I forgot, but no, you're right. That did happen, and
I just like the colorful circular Windows logo in the bottom left corner. That's the only reason I like Windows Vista for.
It was very 3D.
I prefer the new one.
Yeah.
I prefer Windows 10.
No, I like I wish, this is what I wish. I wish I could apply the old Windows design language to my computer right now.
You can.
You can?
You said the tinker bit. You can.
Oh, I'm gonna do that.
Oh god, this one looks so
I'm gonna
jank.
wreck my
This
computer.
one looks so broken. You're gonna have all these universal Windows platform apps to look super modern, and then the taskbar is just gonna be 10 years out of date.
I love that.
It's funny because they made it such a big deal for Windows 11. We're moving to this glassy, this frosted glass interface, and you look at Windows Vista,
It's like the same thing.
and it is
Yeah.
it is frosted glass everything.
But it's 3. Now it's 2D.
Yeah,
Now it's
great.
2D.
I'm glad it's flat and glassy instead of three-dimensional and glassy.
Hot
Nailed it,
take:
guys.
Windows 11 looks beautiful. Just saying.
I love it.
It looks
I think
so
it's gorgeous.
good. It looks so good.
Yeah.
I think it's it's
Even like the tooltips and the right-click menu and the context menus.
Dude.
Ooh, so good.
As far as I'm concerned, they just didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
There's a few places where things are still perfectly square, and it's clear that
Classic
it's like,
Windows.
we
bro.
didn't fix this.
Classic Microsoft. There's always a dialog. There's still a dialog box in Windows 11 and Windows 10 that's like from Windows 95 or Windows ME or something.
Oh yeah.
Really?
I mean, they do that all the time.
Yeah.
There's still. Why do we still have the original control panel? Why is that? Right. We have a proper.
Like there's a
the
settings,
new
menu. But there's still
Why are
things,
we not using that?
There's still things I can't do from the settings menu, like uninstall stuff easily. Like, bro, come on.
The
Yeah.
new settings menu is way better. It's so much better than before. So they've done a great job of improving that. I think in general, everything they've done is great. They just didn't do enough. They should have covered more stuff.
Yeah, they like did it too shallow. It's like update all the dialog boxes, not just some of them. Do everything.
Yeah. I want a full overhaul.
Where's
One
the
thing I will
consistency?
like people know I'm not an Apple person. I rag on Apple all the time. But the one thing that they're good at is consistency across their across their design language. When they say this is the new Apple design language, everything has it. And it is there's nothing that doesn't, right? And if anyone wants to write an app for them, they're like, okay, cool. And it has to do what we tell you to do. Like, it has to fit our design language. Unlike on Windows, where it's like, anybody can write an app for Windows, and it can look like whatever it wants.
yeah.
So, they do that well.
But
They
Anyways.
just don't allow internet very well.
I've been ranting about Windows for longer than I expected I would.
so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it is time where we plug Amazon. Anyone want to plug Amazon Prime subscriptions? before-
Amazon Prime, guys. You can get free 2-day shipping on thousands of items across Amazon. And as this really like niche bonus is that every month you get one free Prime sub. And if you haven't used it and are looking for a creator to use it on, we're a small podcast, and we would
Grassroots.
definitely appreciate it.
Grassroots. Also, I did start the poll just now. For which manages the best opinions. It's built. It's like the native one now, so it looks really cool. There's like a thing at the top right of the chat you guys can click on. Click on the drop down menu, and you can vote, and it's kind of cool.
I won't vote, but this does look great. Yeah. But genuinely, we would absolutely appreciate your support. If you have an Amazon Prime to use, please feel free to use it
Or
on
if you have
us.
disposable income.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Dispose
take
some
your
of it.
disposable income.
Yeah.
We're students here.
We're
Please.
the garbage
Like
collectors
if you
of
get
disposable
10
income.
subs.
But if you would like to support the stream in some way, tell a friend. Just let them know. If you think they're interested in tech news and would like the show, invite them out to watch it with you sometime. And we would certainly appreciate the support that way as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Who's voting?
Also-
How's voting going?
1-1.
Voting has ended with 2 votes.
Oh.
Only 2.
Yeah.
What are you talking-
Should we restart
Bro,
that?
You're
I
gonna run
think-
it longer.
We gotta restart it.
Yeah, restart that thing.
Let's do which man's had the best. I have to retype it every time. It's so annoying. Come on, Twitch.
I believe in you. One of
Mac,
these days, we're
Myth.
gonna get somebody to like run the technical part of it, so that Nasher can actually just be there for the show.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
There we
that's
go. There we go.
Yeah, so
Cool.
that you guys can see his personality.
it. His sparkling personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. There's a poll again. Everyone, please vote for which man has the best opinion.
I'm not voting.
Me
That
neither.
clear. We want this to be a proper democratic process.
Today it was
Yep.
nobody.
Today was
Okay.
oh my god.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, Mac did say Windows Vista is the best Windows, so that's pretty rough.
Yeah. Did he?
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, he did.
I like
He
being
says this
controversial.
consistently.
Hey, it wasn't that bad. I'm just saying.
Top 2 Windows. Number 1, Windows Vista. Number 2, Windows 8.
Wow, you are controversial.
That's my vote.
Yeah.
Come on, guys, gotta get some more votes in there.
Yeah, let's get this voting going. We really need to get to the bottom of this. We need to know who truly is the man with the best opinion to this week.
Yeah.
It's important.
Remember, everybody, a vote for me is a vote for your future.
I have no tagline. Just I don't know.
I don't need a tagline.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
spicy.
Wow.
You took that one step further.
Yeah, I did. You don't have one because you're not thinking of it. I don't have one because it's intentional.
That's impressive.
We are not the same. Oh my gosh, it's a 3-way tie.
That's insane.
Ugh,
That's crazy.
I don't like sharing the spotlight. Let me just quickly grab
You
this.
do that every week, man. There's 3 of us here.
Hey, did I say I liked it?
Oh, true. All right. Nasher's gonna launch his own segment on the stream. He's gonna do it another day of the week, and it's just gonna be him. So
It's just gonna be me, just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Where is the science? Oh, there we go.
It's gonna be Nosher, but me and Nathan are gonna be disrespectful in the chat.
it's like the show's not as good. Where are the other 2 guys? They're the
Yeah.
funny ones.
Oh, there's
I thought Big N was the other guy.
there's a podcast called This Week in Tech.
Oh, what? Really?
Yeah, ran by 2 elderly, nice people. So we'll
Let's do it.
let's rate them.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, if you want more tech news, we're sending you over to get some more. I hope they're not as funny as us, because then our niche is filled.
Yeah.
It's rough.
But thanks so much for joining us, everybody.
Twitch can't let me raid. It's saying there's an issue. Thank you, Twitch.
15 subs. That is big.
That is big.
Twitch just hitting me with the try again later. Thank you, Twitch.
All right. Let's just call it a day then.
Wait
Shall
a second. Oh, that channel can be raided. So we're gonna raid MT Taggart instead, the guy we always raid. So.
All right. Sounds
Hey,
good.
Taggart.
Alrighty.
Well-
Well. Oh, jeez. Wow. That was like. No, you do it. You do it. No, you do it.
No. I did the intro. It's all you.
Well, thanks for coming. Please tune in again next week at 8 p.m. on Wednesdays for the next episode, episode 2.7 of the Man's with Opinion podcast. Otherwise, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
Bye, folks.